I would like to tell you about the night of the fire, everything I personally know and what I subsequently found out later." "Please do," Edward encouraged, every part of him alert. "It was Sunday night, just over a week ago. I had dined with your father and uncle and the two young men, Mr. Edmund and Mr. Thomas. I left them at the small hotel, the Pensione, at about 11 o'clock and went home. As I learned later, the fire apparently broke out in the early hours of Monday morning around 1 o'clock. It seemingly started in the right wing, spread to the foyer, and then to the left wing where your family was staying. It was a sudden fire, and because of the wind that night it kept spreading, and, in fact, it became a real conflagration at one point, and—" "But they weren't burned," Neville interrupted peremptorily. "We've seen the bodies. If it was an inferno, as you suggest, how can that be?" "The wind suddenly dropped, and it also began to rain, very heavily. And anyway, almost immediately the alarm was raised and many of the townsfolk came out with buckets of water, helping to douse the fire." "So our family members died of smoke inhalation when the fire was at its height?" Edward asked. "That's what the death certificates say," Neville pointed out. "There was no smoke inhalation," Alfredo said. "They did not die as a result of the fire. They died from their injuries." "Injuries?" Edward demanded. Neville and Will were on the edge of their chairs, staring intently at the manager of Deravenel's in Carrara, aghast at what they were hearing. "Your father, uncle and cousin sustained head injuries, Mr. Edward," Alfredo said in a low tone. Then he looked across at Neville. "All three men died instantly. Dr. Butterfiglio told me—" "Someone attacked them? Killed them? Are we understanding you correctly?" Edward cut in, his voice rising. "You are." "And the fire was started to conceal the crime?" Neville asked, his voice grim. "Yes. That is the doctor's theory, and I concur with him. The fire was set in order to burn the bodies, so that nobody would know murder had been committed." "You have not mentioned my brother," Edward exclaimed. "What of Edmund?" Alfredo Oliveri had been dreading this question. He took a deep, steadying breath. "It appears that after I left the hotel, Mr. Edmund went out again. Just before the fire was started, Mr. Edmund was waylaid in one of the side streets. He—" "By whom?" Edward demanded, his face growing flushed and angry. "I don't know. No one knows. But Benito Magnani, the owner of the Colosseum restaurant, was on his way home after closing up, and he saw two men bending over a body. They immediately fled. They were English, though." "How do you know that?" Will asked quickly. "Because Benito heard one of the men say something about London, and the man made a remark like, 'Let's ski-diddle.' This phrase didn't make sense to either Benito or the police, but it did to me. I believe that what the man was saying actually was, 'Let's skedaddle back to London.'" "How did they kill him?" Edward asked in a barely audible voice. "They cut his throat," Alfredo answered in a voice as quiet as Edward's. There was a moment of utter, stunned shock in the room. Rigid, his face draining of all colour, Edward cried out, "No! Not Edmund! To die like that? Who would commit such a foul crime? He was only 17, for God's sake, an innocent boy!" Edward broke off, his face crumpling, tears glistening in those bright blue eyes. "Mr. Edmund was killed because he was a Deravenel and Mr. Richard's son," Alfredo said vehemently. "They did not find him at the hotel when they killed the others, so they went looking for him." "Do you think Mr. Edward is in danger?" "Yes, I do. In my opinion, Mr. Watkins, your uncle was killed because he was the true heir to Deravenel's." A deep sigh rippled through Neville, and he shook his head, sorrow shadowing his eyes. "My father and brother, God rest their souls in heaven." Then he went on, "Edward, I will have you sitting in Henry Grant's chair in 6 months, which is the place you'll occupy for the rest of your life. You will run Deravenel's." Edward was silent for a moment. "Only if you are by my side." "And I will be. Have no fear of that, cousin," Neville Watkins promised.